Well, hey everybody, and welcome to episode 25 of the Pixar Post Podcast. As usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. I mean, there's been a lot of news since we had a show, so we're going to talk about Ed Catmull's book, Creativity, Inc. We're going to talk about a follow-up that we were talking about on the last podcast to the Toy Story That Time Forgot, and comparing that to the Land That Time Forgot book. We're going to talk about our Pixar Book Club that we're going to be starting, which is part of the Pixar Post Insider. We're going to talk about the Incredibles news. We're going to talk about Cars 3. We're going to talk about
the new Cars tunes.
The new Cars tune that's coming out. And then the big piece is about Party Central, where we also not only talk about the short, which was just seen in theaters alongside with the Muppets, but we're also going to have our interview. We're going to play our interview that we had with the director and writer, Kelsey Mann. So the first thing we want to talk about is where we have been, because we haven't done a podcast in almost 2 months now.
Right.
And so we just wanted to fill everybody in that we're excited that we
welcomed our baby boy into the world recently. So
we had a little bit of time, obviously with getting into the swing of the new roles that we have and everything like that. So welcome, Leo.
Yeah, so we have a little boy here at home, and we just needed some time to get ourselves together.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot going on all at once, so
right.
We had to make sure we could handle that. And then plus, we know, anybody listening that has a kid or has a sibling or anything like that, they know that when a kid comes around, it gets nutty.
Yeah.
Just lots of stuff going on. So we have to follow up on something that we teased back in January, at the end of January when we recorded our last one, which was the Toy Story That Time Forgot Christmas special. Obviously, we don't need to go into that fully again, but we had discussed that we were going to talk about the book, the Land That Time Forgot, which one of our forum users happened to make the connection and said, hey, that movie sounds familiar. And then I said, wait a minute, it's a book. So let's just recap just a little, and I'm going to go on kind of fast forward here, because if you listen to the last podcast, we already covered a lot of this. So we know that this is a TV special, the second in a series of TV specials that Pixar is going to release. Mm-hmm. It's going to be airing this holiday season. We're predicting around or after Thanksgiving time. It's going to be directed by Steve Purcell, produced by Galen Sussman. The plot synopsis that we know so far is during a post-Christmas play date, the Toy Story gang find themselves in uncharted territory when the coolest set of action figures ever turn out to be dangerously delusional. It's all up to Trixie the Triceratops. If the gang hopes to return to Bonnie's room. So that is kind of that's the plot synopsis.
Yeah, that's what we know so far.
And the other thing that we made the connection to is that the book is written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who wrote John Carter, who Andrew Stanton, obviously a major director and senior Pixarian.
Well, part of the Brain Trust.
Worked on that. So we're just seeing too many connections to think that this is not a connection. So I read the book.
Well, we also know that Andrew Stanton had a big part of the
TV series.
Right, for Toy Story of Terror.
Right.
Splitting it up into 4 sections for what's it called? Like commercials.
For commercials instead of the average 3 acts, which they do for movies. So the book is really a 3-part series. There's the Land That Time Forgot, The People That Time Forgot, and Out of Time's Abyss. I have read The Land That Time Forgot, and I'm in the middle of The People That Time Forgot. It was said that Edgar Rice Burroughs didn't ever want to make this a 3-part series. He wanted to have it all be one book. Mm-hmm. But essentially publishers wanted to find a way to kind of spread it out. So it's kind of like, 7th Harry Potter book, splitting it into 2 movies, that kind of thing. So they wanted to find a way to kind of make some more money off of it. And as you go right from the first book, The Land That Time Forgot, into The People That Time Forgot, you realize that it should have never been split up.
Okay.
I mean, it picks right back up. And I will say that so far I've been enjoying The People That Time Forgot a little more.
Oh.
So I'll give everybody kind of a basis. And if you don't want to hear anything about this book, if you plan on reading it because of this connection or anything like that, then go ahead and skip forward a little bit and pick a spot where we're not necessarily chatting about this. I hate to say that, but if you are trying to avoid any spoilers. But let's level set on the book. I'll kind of give like a real high-level synopsis of it, and then I'll go through some of the connections that there could be.
That you've kind of seen.
Yeah, there's not a ton. You're never going to walk away from this and go, oh, well, this is a direct connection to Pixar, because, I mean, it's a totally different style of story. I mean, this guy, Edgar Rice Burroughs, is known for writing Tarzan and those kind of things. So it's not...
You can see elements that Pixar could have...
I see story elements that they could tweak.
Okay, could use, like, elements of
right.
it. Okay.
Yeah, and someone else, again, the forum user, that Mac95, that happened to find this connection that he found to the movie, he ended up ordering the book and read it, and he feels that it's really the second half of the book, and I agree, which is where there could be any type of connection. So, here we go. So, The Land That Time Forgot, it's a story, I mentioned some of this in the last podcast too, so I'll just kind of high level this part too. It's a story set within a story. A guy finds a letter in a bottle, or a story really, like almost like a journal in a bottle, and it's that guy's reading it that found it in the thing. It's recounting the other gentleman's story that wrote that journal. Mm-hmm. So the beginning of the battle is between a U-boat and a submarine. And then a tugboat comes in. There's a whole bunch of all different boats. It's all at sea. There's battles at sea. There's elements of a love story and soldiers galore. So that's where I think the action figures play in.
Okay.
All right, so I already mentioned there's a battle at sea. It's a close quarters battle. The good guys take control of the bad guys' submarine. And the good guys try to take the bad guys' submarine back into their own territory. But as they're going back into their own territory, the good guy territory, they're coming in to the good guy territory with a bad guy sub.
Okay.
So you see.
That's kind of confusing.
Well, you see what I'm saying
yes,
here?
I get
So
what
like
you're
they
saying.
took over the bad guy sub, but they're trying to take it back to their territory because they've captured the bad guys in their bad guy sub.
Right.
But as they're going into their territory, the other people that think this is a bad sub coming to get us.
Right.
So they're firing on it. So they're trying to find all these ways. They're putting up flags. They're doing all this other stuff. They're trying to say, hey, well, anyways, many failed attempts. They're even being chased out to sea a little more. They're faced to turn and run, and they spend a lot of time trying to figure out what to do. And eventually they stumble across an island. And the island, they seem to remember reading something about it from an early 1700s Italian navigator. And he named this island Caprona. They also, just as a side note, Caprona is what they call like the outside of the island. Caspak is what they call the inside. It's like a whole crazy thing. So they're running low on fuel and food, and it looks like they have to land on this island. And they're sitting there going, but this is going to be weird, because they're already seeing really weird stuff from the outside. So upon landing, they determined that although you now have good guys and bad guys, the good guys capture the bad guys, but they're like, hey, we need to work together or we're not going to survive on this island. So we need to put all of our differences aside. So that's where I think an interesting thought where there could be a story connection to.
Okay.
So where the action figures feel like they've been thrust together with the Toy Story gang in this post-Christmas play date.
To get back to the house or whatever?
Well, I just think like just this portion of it. Not necessarily the getting back, but I feel like them being thrust together, I feel like the action figures feel like they're the good guys and they're the more elite ones. And I feel like they're eventually going to have to work together if they want to. I guess it is. You're right.
Yeah.
If they want to get back to where they are, and obviously it seems like maybe the Toy Story gang are the good guys because in the plot description it says Trixie is the one that has to fix everything.
Right.
So, but that's what I think. So eventually, after a lot of struggles, they find their way to get into the island, and they start to notice dinosaurs and other carnivorous creatures, which obviously completely surprise them because they're not expecting to see this. This is not dinosaur times. It's not millions of years ago and that kind of thing. So without discussing the entire story, let's just say that there are other natives on the island. There's a battle between sides that, they swore, the good guys and bad guys swore they were going to work together, but the bad guys essentially find a way to steal the sub, get fuel, and get off the island. So now the good guys are stuck there.
Okay.
So then it's a whole survival story of them living there and trying to figure out how, coming to grips with they're just going to be stuck here. So that's where the second book kind of comes in, the people that time forgot. So the land was forgotten. Now the people are forgotten. So, and then the second book kind of, I'm not going to get into that, but it just picks up essentially where the guy that picked up that bottle and was reading the story, he determines his life is too boring and he's going to go find
the island
to rescue this guy.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool. Like, that's where I feel like I've been a little bit more interested in the second one, because the first one, the entire first half is
set up
battles at sea. And it's almost like they go in, they go out, they go in, they go out. And it was like, come on, let's move this along. The second half is where it gets interesting. But
now I've seen kind of a connection because you mentioned, carnivorous creatures and dinosaurs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Isn't there a new character who is voiced by Kevin McKidd, like a half
Reptilis
man?
Maximus.
Yeah.
We don't know
if he's a half man, half lizard.
Right.
I can only assume with that name
Sounds
that
like
he's
it
going to
could
be
be
like a dinosaur / G.I. Joe.
Could be.
And
Could be.
Is he going to be like kind of like a bad guy, or is he going to be kind of maybe like a good guy?
I don't know.
And I think they're all going to end up probably being good.
Yeah. I think it's really just like the action figures.
It's kind of like when Buzz first was Buzz.
Yeah. It's kind of like he's coming out of his comfort zone, like they've been pre-programmed in a way.
Yes,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, right. It's like the action figures, they've been pre-programmed in a way, and they're probably, in my opinion, going to be aggressively hunting Trixie, and because she's a dinosaur.
Oh.
And they're going to be trying to like capture her, I'm guessing. That's what I'm just guessing.
Okay.
And she's going to have to figure out a way.
Or Rex.
But it says Trixie in here.
But Trixie saves. So
right.
Do they capture Rex?
Okay, could be. But it's up to her to set it right. So I think it's going to have to be some type of a lesson where they teach the action figures like, hey, come on, we're not all bad here just because we're dinosaurs or whatever. Because they're in this land.
Right.
This post-play date, which who knows where this is going to be. It could be anywhere after post-Christmas. I mean, it could be at somebody else's. I mean,
I'm kind of thinking Grandma's house or, a play date, so...
Right, it's going to be somebody that Bonnie's
like
friends with.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be at Bonnie's house.
I don't either. No, because they say they have to get back to Bonnie's.
Yeah.
So, well, anyways. So have you read the book? And not you, Julie, but has anybody listening read the book? Do you have any other thoughts or connections? We kind of gave you ours, and it's more of a high-level one. I'll see if there's anything else that comes up between the second or third book, but just something to think about.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see when it finally comes the holiday season to watch this, to then see what you picked up on, or even just have read the book to see if there's anything new that you didn't, know.
Or if there's any connection at all. It could be nothing.
Yeah, it could be nothing.
It could be absolutely nothing. But we'll see. It's like I said, though, there's too many connections with Edgar Rice Burroughs and...
Yeah. I kind of feel like there's going to be something.
The name being the same. There's dinosaurs and soldiers, which are the action figures. There's too much that's there. So it's kind of cool, though. So, well, anyways, talking about books, the next thing that's going to be coming up here very soon on April 8th, Ed Catmull's book, Creativity, Inc., is going to be coming out. And
we're so excited about this. We have been anticipating this book release, my gosh, since they announced that it was coming out.
Absolutely.
Forever ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, to some people, it might sound like it's simply just a management book, with a subtitle like Overcoming the Unseen Forces That Stand in the Way of Inspiration. And they talk about that it's, very management or people-oriented in book descriptions and those kind of things. But what we saw from the Fast Company released an excerpt from the book on their website. We wrote a post about it, which we'll link to in the show notes for episode 25, this episode. It's clearly a lot more than that. And the comments on Amazon, we've already been reading people that have received advanced copies, and we've read their comments, and they're saying, for anybody that's a fan of Pixar, this is clearly...
very Pixar-centric.
Right. And then there was a second follow-up Pixar article that Fast Company did. They did a 3-part series, one that talked about Frozen, one that was an excerpt from the book, and one that talked about just some other challenges of how all the stories kind of stink at first. And then they even discussed Newt. And how that was canceled. And, there was really no explanation for it ever. And this isn't a huge explanation, but in that article, which is, again, a little piece from the book, it talks about the fact that they felt like Newt wasn't getting somewhere, and they actually gave it, because Gary Rydstrom was originally directing that. And they said, we're going to give it to Pete Docter. And Pete Docter came back and said, well, I can do it, but I have another idea right now that I think is better, and I'd like to work on that. And they thought it was so good when he pitched him Inside Out that they basically said, we're just going to do that. Because there was already rumors that it was too close to Rio, Blue Skies Rio, and that kind of thing. That, these two Newts had to be put together, and they were the last on Earth, and they had to, procreate so that way they could save their species and all that. It's the same kind of deal. So there was that rumor, but then we really heard this now that it was going to be given to Pete Docter, which is interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. And the fact that he pitched him Inside Out and they said, oh my God, like we're doing that.
Right.
And that article talks so much about Inside Out too. I mean, this book, if you want to get some early insights into Inside Out, you need to read this because that excerpt says so many different things.
Yeah, it's funny and like kind of getting off track here, but how many people have we heard recently who all have, obviously are part of the Brain Trust or have an inside look into Inside Out and have been like, this is amazing. Like, you have no idea. Mm-hmm. You're going to be in for it. Doesn't it make you be like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be like the longest year, but probably the quickest year because like I feel like in maybe 6 months we're going to start getting teasers.
So they already did the teaser at D23 from this last year, the D23 Expo, where they showed the animated storyboards. Mm-hmm. They did like a brief one there where they showed a quick scene and it was narrated there. So there's a little bit that's been a teaser, but yeah, it'll be nice to see an official trailer for this, and I cannot wait for this movie. I mean, I know I've said it 100 times. I write it in all of our posts about it. It just sounds way too cool. So like, just to support that a little bit, one of the things from the excerpt, in case anybody didn't read it, is from Brad Bird, and he says to Pete Docter in this Brain Trust meeting, Pete, I want to give you a huge round of applause. This is a freaking big idea to try to make a movie about. I've said to you in previous films you're trying to do a triple backflip into gale force winds, and you're mad at yourself for not sticking the landing. Like, it's amazing you're alive. This film is the same. So, huge round of applause. And then so everybody gives him a round of applause. And you're in for a world of hurt. So, I mean, that was obviously early on. Mm-hmm. But just how cool does this sound?
I know.
Everybody, I mean, if you're getting people like Brad Bird and all these other high-ups that are super excited about it, that's got to really get people going. That's cool.
That is cool.
So
I think you're the most excited about of anybody.
I don't know. I might be. The excerpt talks about some other really cool stuff, like the character of, what is it, Emotion? Mm-hmm. She's actually shaped... Sadness, you're right. Yes, thank you. That she's actually based on a teardrop shape. And I looked at her and I'm like, wow, they talk about that and I didn't know that. So it's great that we're already getting these little teasers from, this Creativity Inc. Ed Catmull's book coming up. So... I can't wait. But if you look at her, turn it upside down, and it's an upside down tear. Mm-hmm. I loved it.
Yep.
So this made us think, we talked about the land that time forgot. Now we're talking about Creativity Inc. This made us think we really wanted to start a book club to get everybody involved. So it'll be available to members of a new section of our site that we're not announcing the details on yet, but it'll be as part of the Pixar Post Insider, and we'll have a lot more details coming soon. But if you haven't already ordered the book, be sure to pick it up, because once it comes out, we're going to start the book club. We're going to start reading it, and then there's going to be ways to discuss it, and we're going to have other things that we're going to do. But we'd love to have people's input on different sections, and we're going to kind of break it up. Like, we're going to read the first 3 chapters, 4 chapters, or whatever, and then discuss those, and then go on. So it's going to be like, we're going to try to make it a legitimate book club, but where people are spread out. Mm-hmm. So it'll be kind of cool. And, we'll try different things over time. We've got some ideas, so we'll see how it evolves and, how people react to it and how people get involved and what they like and don't. So feel free, as you join us on this journey, and we hope you do, let us know what you think. If there's things that are working or missing or whatever, let us know. We're always open to all these kind of new ideas. And we've got some other cool things coming up for the site as well, too. But, yeah, but also, if you want to support the show and Pixar Post Podcast as well, definitely just head to our show notes. Again, this is episode 25. Click on the link to the book and then order it through the affiliate link that we have, and that'll help support the show a little bit additionally. So definitely very cool stuff. Also in our post, if you happen to live in the California and New York area, I'd say there's only one in New York, but Ed Catmull's doing a series of speaking events and book signings. Which would be incredible. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the founders of not only Pixar, but like the technology of all of computer animation. Right. That's an amazing thing. So he's going to be all over California, not all over California, but like within the San Francisco, kind of Emeryville, LA area. I wonder if he's going to like read an excerpt of his book, or if he's going to do like a Q&A, or maybe just kind of like speak with the book, why he wrote the book. Good question. Yeah, I don't know. They haven't really said specifically on any of the descriptions. I mean, it basically just says, there's like the one in New York it's part of a broader Fast Company event.
Oh, okay.
Where he's going to be a speaker at that event. And some of these on the
West Coast.
Some of them on the West Coast are paid and not paid. Like there's some that are free.
Oh, okay.
So definitely look up those dates. There's going to be one where Jim Morris is going to be along with him, who's Pixar's executive vice president of production.
Wow.
And then on April 7th, the day before the book comes out, this is the one that if I was in the area, I would definitely go to as well. In fact, I'd go to the one with Jim Morris as well. But Pete Docter is going to be at the April 7th event with him. So, and you could imagine that if Ed Catmull's signing books, that Pete Docter will probably be signing it as well. So if you've wanted to bump into, I don't know, two high-ups at Pixar, that might be your opportunity.
Oh, my goodness.
So pretty cool stuff. So definitely pick up the book. Let's talk about it. And we can't wait to start reading and seeing what some of these great insights, not only about management and about creativity, but about the movies.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, and then, the last thing we kind of talked about with his book was an excerpt where Brad Bird was talking. So, obviously, we heard some huge news about Brad Bird this week as well.
Yeah, from the Disney shareholder meeting. I think we about passed out.
Yeah, it was so hilarious. We were both listening to it. We've got it on in the background. And it's almost like when they said it, almost didn't...
They started, Bob Iger was starting to talk about Pixar. And then... You explain it, because the look on your face was like priceless. Like, I wish you looked at me like, did you just what?
You were sitting behind me, and all of a sudden I was like, I turn around, and because you weren't really reacting, you were just like, okay, that's the news.
Well, because I was doing something else.
I know, but I was still like,
something else
I was like, did you just hear this? Like, this, what? Is this real? I couldn't believe it. And then obviously the first thing you think of when you hear this is that
what was it?
The Incredibles sequel is in the works, and Brad Bird is developing it. So and then also Cars 3, the third installment of the Cars franchise. But let's talk about The Incredibles real quick, since we mentioned Brad Bird, in that last comment. Obviously, this had the reaction across the internet. On Twitter, it was trending worldwide.
Oh my gosh.
The Incredibles was trending worldwide after that, the hashtag, because it's...
The Incredibles 2, I mean, that was our highest hit, like people just searching Incredibles 2 to come to our site for
and it was just like a rumor post. Like we were like, okay, we just briefly talked about it. We talked about it on episode 12 of the podcast, so in case anybody wants to go back and listen to that, we talked about it based on comments that Brad Bird made at D23. At least I believe it was at the D23 Expo, where he was asked about would he do an Incredibles sequel, and he said, if the idea is good and there's a reason to, then I'll do it. But it's crazy to think that it's here now, and people were just going crazy. I think The Incredibles 2 broke the internet. It absolutely did. I mean, people were just like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. I mean, the comments, people make it sound like it's like they just found like a long lost sibling.
Oh, the emails that we received, like, oh my gosh, you guys, is this really happening? Like, crazy.
I know. Yeah, comments on our site and everything. Yeah, so that was great news. So that's obviously a great way to kind of celebrate a 10-year, if you will, anniversary of The Incredibles, because it was 10 years since it had been released in 2004.
Right. What I also found interesting was some of the other Pixarians that we happen to follow on Twitter.
Yeah.
They were saying, so glad we can finally be truthful to everyone now. Yes, we are.
Right. They don't have to lie to their family, and then people are like, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of cute.
It is cool because they can finally discuss it, which is huge.
Yeah, which I wish I knew how long it has been in production.
Yeah, because obviously we know that an average length of time that a movie is 4 to 5 years. Right. Sometime, Monsters University was just under, I think, or just at 5 years.
Well, Brave was 8, wasn't it?
Well, that had obviously other things that came in there, but
so we don't know.
We don't know. If I wanted to take a prediction, I'd say
2018 or late 2017.
I say 18. Yeah.
Yeah. 18 is my first.
I think 18 for that and 2019 for Cars 3. What do you think?
I say both for 18.
Okay. You're going to say that's going to be the double. Oh, because
May and November, because now they're trying to do the 2 each year.
But Ed Catmull always said that he's going to do one original and a sequel.
Sequel, yeah. Well, yeah.
Huh?
Then I would agree with you.
I don't. Who knows? I mean, that could obviously just be a guideline. It doesn't mean that that's what it has to be.
Right.
But regardless, that was interesting. And that came hot on the heels of the news that The Incredibles was getting a 3D re-release of the first movie this year, along with Ratatouille.
Yes.
Another Brad Bird movie. So it's like a Brad Bird love fest going on over there right now.
Oh, for sure. And he's going to be at the Cartoon Art Museum.
Right. They're doing a fundraising event, which is what, May 17th?
Yes.
May 17th. So if you ever wanted to tour Pixar, this is your way to do it. Because obviously it's a closed studio. It's one of the questions that we get the most as far as people going, hey, how do I get a tour at Pixar? And we tell people that it's basically you have to either know somebody.
Invite only.
Yes, you have to know somebody, or you have to go to one of these charity events. And the CAM event, the Cartoon Art Museum event, is a great one. The tickets are around $500. Well, they're $500 for non-members or $450 for members of the Cartoon Art Museum. But obviously, the ticket price is getting you in, but it's also supporting
a great organization.
Sure. I mean, it's obviously all about cartoon artwork, and and that's what you want to support, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
and it's like a believable experience.
It's an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what did I say? It's
you said it was an unbelievable experience. It's such a long pause.
Yes, it's very dramatic.
So yeah, it'll be really cool. I mean, you're going to obviously be able to bid on artwork. There's going to be an auction at the event. You're going to be able to tour the main studio area, or not the main studio area, but with the atrium area. It's really cool. I mean, and if you have the means and you're going to be in California, May 17th, I highly recommend it. It's a cool event. In fact, our friend Jeff from This Day in Pixar has been there before. He went to that event specifically. In
2012, I believe. Just a few years ago.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to, again, it'll be linked through from the Cartoon Art Museum post that we did, but it links right to his site, so that way you can check that out. So that'll be kind of, it's a good read if you're considering it and you're kind of on the fence. So,
and who knows? I mean, at this charity event, Brad Bird's going to actually be there, unless his schedule changes.
Right.
But how we got off topic discussing this benefit was, who knows if he's going to, maybe give some insight into Incredibles 2. Because if he does do a Q&A, people are
they're going to ask. Yeah.
Someone's going to ask about it.
It'll be interesting to see if they give any information or if they have any intention to give any information.
Yeah.
Because the idea is to celebrate the first Incredibles.
Right. And now I don't think they're going to give tons of details, but maybe a very small, little tiny snippet.
Could be.
Of information,
you never know.
Is the movie going to happen now, 10 years later, or pick up where they left off?
Well, and that's what, again, that's what I was talking about with our episode 12. That's what we speculated about. And I think, if I remember properly, we landed on the idea that it was going to pick up right where it left off. Not necessarily meaning that it was continuing exactly at the Underminer when he comes up, but continuing within the same age bracket they are. That's what we had originally kind of landed on, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm just on the fence with voices and stuff. I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
I'm so excited. I could see both ways.
So there was a comment that was on another site that I read that was really interesting, though, and they talked about the fact that they said specifically that it needs to be in the future. And they said because it allows the characters to age naturally like they did in Toy Story 3. Because now Andy was grown up, he's going off to college, and it felt right because those kids that were watching it when they were younger have grown up, and then they're at that age bracket. But I didn't comment, but I disagree with that comment for one reason, and that's because the main characters in Toy Story are not Andy. The main characters are the toys, and they are ageless. But you're dealing with humans with the Incredibles, or Incredibles with the Incredibles, superheroes. So you're talking about a group of people that would physically change their appearance over time.
Right.
So I think that that's the difference. I don't think that it necessarily has to age to follow that same progression as Toy Story, because the main characters would be different.
Well, because Jack would be 10. And that's about the size. That's
right.
About what Dash was.
Well, based on when it comes out.
Right.
If they want to really keep it true, it could be 13, 14.
Right.
So who knows?
But I'm sure, however, they're developing,
Yeah, it ought to be interesting though. But I personally still think it'll be when they're still young. It'll pick back up kind of around that time frame because having Dash, I mean, maybe just a little older, so that way Jack can
be just a little older, not just a baby.
So he can utilize his powers and not just be a baby, right? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But
I still think it's going to be within that time frame.
And Violet's like in college.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see it. I think.
Oh gosh, I'm so on the fence because I can see a story going both ways.
You never know.
Oh man.
Yeah. But do you agree as far as with the Toy Story comment that it doesn't have to be that way just because Toy Story was because of the whole
I don't.
The toys are different?
I mean, I can understand that person's comment, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be that way.
Right. So the other news that came out of that Disney shareholder meeting was the news about Cars 3.
This has a lot of people on the fence. I think a lot of people are against Cars 3. We're geeked about it because...
Oh, of course.
We really like the Cars franchise. For you, not only do you love the characters and obviously Cars Land, Disneyland, or Disney's California Adventure, but the characters and the story and just everything.
The die-cast characters.
Yes, the die-cast Cars, I forgot.
Yeah.
You just love everything about it.
Well, Cars was one of those movies that I remember in the theater, and we may have talked about this before, but in the theater, I remember when we were watching the preview for it. The preview was on in one of the other movies that we were going to see, and you said, "How am I going to get into this? It's a movie about NASCAR," and I even kind of said the same thing because I'm not a racing fan by any means, as far as watching NASCAR or anything, but the heart of it and the characters totally captured both of us. Mm-hmm. I mean, oh man, the part when Mater says, "I knew I made a good choice."
Yeah, and my best friend.
My best friend. Oh, we were both just a wreck.
I was like,
and then there's just so much like build up when how the movie starts with speed. I am speed, and then like when he gets to the final race, when he's doing the three-way tie race with the King and Chick Hicks, it starts that same thing. There was so many different elements, the camera angles, the fact that they had all that. The dirt on the track and the rubber tire chunks that was I can't remember what they called that, but it was in the extras where they talked about how they went to the racetrack and saw that. There's so many things about that movie that we loved. And then following that up with Cars 2, we left the theater and we were not 100%. To be totally honest, we were not 100%. But it's because we went in having kind of a different... But it is,
I think we've watched Cars 2 more than we've watched Cars as of recent.
It is true. Because after a while, what happened was we left there saying, well, that was totally different than what our expectations were. Mm-hmm. But then we started to realize that...
It was more action and fun rather than heart, I guess. I mean, it still had heart, but it wasn't
it was with the Mater story, but it wasn't as strong.
Yes.
And after a while, you just have to we stepped back from it and just said, it was a ton of fun, though.
Oh, for sure.
And then, the comments that we had heard, we talked about it before with some parents that they said basically that they were just concerned that it had gone too far away from the original story. So with Cars 3, we heard that interview with Michael Wallace that we did a post on months ago where he talked about the fact that he was doing, and Michael Wallace is the guy that does the voice for Sheriff, in case anybody doesn't remember that from...
And he helped do the research for Route 66.
Right, because he had written some books on it and done some other vocal work and those kind of things. And so anyways, he does the voice of Sheriff. He revealed that he was working on Cars 3. Now, we didn't know if that was really Cars 3 or if it was a short. Obviously, now we know that it really was Cars 3. And if what he said was true in that interview, it's not going to be on Route 66. It's going to be on Route 99, which runs north and south in California. And he talked about the fact that he's feeling like he didn't love the direction of Cars 2 as much. And then Cars 3 should be bringing it back. I guess we ultimately, being the Pixar fans that we are, we have the ultimate confidence that Pixar can do it. They will do it. Mm-hmm. And so we do think that it's going to bring the heart back. It's going to be kind of another one of those, like, more of a meaning behind it and capture that audience. Now, again, it's not, we still don't think it was anything bad of what happened with Cars 2. We just think that it now will go back to be a little bit more of the heart side of things.
Maybe kind of the same kind of storyline as Cars 1, rather than more action-packed and fun, like a Bond kind of film, as Cars 2.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I think less action, more heart. I mean, who knows what kind of characters they're going to have, new characters.
Right. But I do get some people's concerns about it. They do feel like, first off, a lot of people, I don't know why. I have no clue why. And I'm not disrespecting anybody just because I can't comprehend it. Obviously, everybody has their own opinions. But I can't comprehend that some people didn't even like the first Cars. They're like, yeah, it was just okay. I mean, to me, I really loved it.
Yeah.
And Luigi and Guido, don't even get me started. Especially Guido.
Yes.
So I get people's concerns, but the other thing that I guess I take a little bit of like more of a open mind with is, some people are saying like, why are they doing this? Why they don't need to make another one? It's a money grab. All these other kind of, negative kind of comments. I guess the difference is...
I really don't like that.
I don't either. First off, that's not true. But second off, in my opinion, just because you don't like a film, if you didn't like Cars 1 or Cars 2, doesn't mean that making a third is a money grab.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of passion, and I think it's been proven between the research that they've done, between the characters and who they got to voice the characters. The character development. There's enough passion behind it that it wasn't just a money grab. And that's, I mean, gosh, John has so much love for the Cars series, too.
I know.
That it's like, he's not just doing this for that reason.
He came up with it because of the vacation that he took with his family.
Right. Exactly. And then they have the Cars Motorama Day at the studio. So, I mean, there's a respect and level of Cars that it's not a money grab. Mm-hmm. So, anyways,
that's how we feel.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I'm going to throw it out there. It's not. Yeah. And it's okay that people don't, again, that they maybe don't love the idea.
Oh, for sure.
That's okay. But Pixar doesn't have to make every movie that you love either. Mm-hmm. You don't have to cry at every movie that they make. And I say it all the time. I think that people are too harshly critical on Pixar movies where they talk about the fact... I think they rate it on a scale of tears, is what I always say. Mm-hmm. And they rate how much they love the movie based on how many tears they shed during viewing. And I don't think that's fair.
I don't think that's fair either, because I feel like... Now, I mean, I cried a little bit in Monsters University, but I feel like Bug's Life, Cars 2... Monsters University. People didn't cry, so people are just like, yeah, they're just okay.
Right. Yeah, Bug's Life's another one of those ones that doesn't get as much love as it necessarily should.
Especially for how early on that was, but we won't go down that road right now.
Exactly. But regardless, we're pumped for Cars 3 that we heard that there's going to be one in development. Who knows again when that will be. We predicted earlier, 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
So we shall see. But from another news related to Cars is during the D23 Expo last year, we had heard some news regarding Radiator Springs 500 and a half, which was a Cars short that is going to be directed by Rob Gibbs, who's done many of the Cars shorts and Cars tunes that have been out there.
And this is going to be different. It's still like a Cars tune, but I believe it's called Radiator Spring Shorts now?
Tales from Radiator Springs.
Tales.
Yeah, Tales from Radiator Springs this is the first one. Radiator Springs 500 and a half is kicking off that new series. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the Cars tunes are mostly centric around Mater. Whereas these Tales from Radiator Springs are going to be a little bit different. So,
well, that's good. That's good to differentiate those two, because hopefully they're still going to do Cars tunes because those are so popular.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you have to still have those Mater ones because everyone loves Mater.
Right.
But then these are nice because then, okay, maybe we can focus on the sheriff, or we can focus on An Adventure of Flo.
Right. Right. So speaking of that, so the plot synopsis that we know from this, that was released from Disney Insider on their official site, is a leisurely drive planned in honor of Radiator Springs' town founder, Stanley, turns precarious as Baja pros descend on the town and challenge Lightning McQueen to an off-road race. So meanwhile, the townsfolk, led by a Stanley costumed Mater, enjoy the planned leisurely drive to retrace Stanley's original frontier route. Thinking they're on the same course, a wrong turn sends McQueen and the Baja Pros on a treacherously wild bid for survival. The misunderstanding leads the racing professionals in awe, or leaves the racing professionals in awe of the Legend of Stanley, the original off-road racer. So it's kind of cool. First off, there's been people that have commented online that the Stanley costumed Mater, they said they were already in right when they heard that.
Oh, for sure.
And it's kind of cool. We saw the colors.
I love how they make Mater like the comedic, like the color commentary.
He's a town clown.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny.
Right.
And like to have him now dressed up like Stanley. I mean, how's that even going to work?
Well, he's going to dress up like Stanley, and he's going to be obviously all, kooky.
Yeah.
He's going to have it pieced together. It's going to look a little off.
Well, Stanley had a gold tooth, didn't he? So now one of Mater's buck teeth is going to probably be painted gold, do you think?
Well, was that just for the statue?
Is it? I don't know.
I don't think he had one for
Well, he didn't have one in
Time Travel Mater.
But later on, did he have
Yeah,
one?
I don't know
know.
I don't know if it was later or if it was just the statue that they put it on.
So that would be interesting to see.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool. That one is actually going to be releasing in the springtime. They said spring release. So that could be technically... Spring is now.
Yeah, now till June.
Now till about mid-June when summer would kick off. And the difference is at the D23 Expo last year, we had heard that it was going to be released or premiering on the Disney Channel. And now it's going to be part of the, what is it called? The Disney Movies Anywhere app. So what is the Disney Movies Anywhere app? It's essentially an app that it's similar to like a streaming site. Or you would download the digital copies if you bought the DVD onto your iTunes and then plug them into. You'd have to sync them with your device. Well, now the Disney Anywhere app, if you've put in any of those digital codes, when you go there, it will automatically pull up all of your movies that you have digital access to, and you don't necessarily have to download them to your computer through iTunes. You can you can stream them there, or you can physically download them so they can be available offline as well, right through the app, without having to sync it with iTunes. Now, originally, the app, people were sitting there going, well, this is just a streaming app, so what's the point? I can already do that with iTunes. But the difference is it sounds like they've got some other things up their sleeve. Like
some exclusive releases, obviously.
This short is going to be premiered on there, so that's one thing. And then I've heard some rumors that there could be some exclusive games through there as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's some things that they could be doing there as well. But yeah, if you don't have it, make sure you download the app. We have a link, again, and we'll put it in our show notes. We have a link to download it because you're going to want to have it by the time it premieres, so that way...
Yeah, you can be one of the first to see it.
Yeah, because then there's a whole thing where if you don't own the Incredibles digitally, they also have it through the app right now. It's for a limited time, so depending on when you're listening to this, it may still be available or not. But if you sign up for the app and connect it to your iTunes account right now, they'll give you the Incredibles digital for free.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of a cool little bonus if you don't have it, or even if not, just sign up for it now, make the connection to iTunes now, so you're not hurrying to do it on the day that Radiator Springs 500.5 is released. So it ought to be kind of cool. So the other thing from the D23 Expo that was announced, though, is that there are die-cast... Well, the Mattel rep was talking about this, and we had already heard some grumblings that there was going to be die-cast characters from Radiator Springs 500.5 that were going to be released. And Hello Baja Racers as a die-cast series.
You're sold.
Oh my God. And the fact that, okay, me and my big tires on anything. The picture, the screenshot from this already shows Lightning McQueen already all decked out in his off-road gear. He's got his fresh off-road tires. He's got the spare tire strapped to the roof rack, which also doubles with 4 or 5 lights on the top. So it's because they're driving when it's dark, and they've got the lights that are going to be when they're...
Oh my goodness. To add to your 700-plus die-cast collection.
Okay, so the one thing that I'm really hoping for, though, is that, and I've said it on our posts, these better have rubber tires.
I don't think
the Kmart series was the only one that had done this before with the rubber tires, but I really want these to be rubber tires. With them being Baja Racers, are you kidding me?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of my favorite series of toys when I was a kid. Whenever I'd play in my sandbox, and I had a car that always had rubber tires that I'd build like a ramp and a racetrack for. I gotta have rubber tires.
All right.
Make it happen.
So I'll do my best.
So in other diecast news, one thing that we had heard recently is that the Kmart Collector's Days, if anybody had done that, where in June and October, they had scaled it back to twice a year. It used to be 3 times a year, but as of recently, it was June and October. They were doing Kmart releases of exclusive cars and or early release cars that were through Kmart specifically. And you'd go there, they'd give you a ticket, you open a box, all those kind of things. Well, they are actually stopping that. So that was kind of surprising news. Mm-hmm. But around the rest of the world, there's not Kmart all around the world, so it's usually held at Target. So I'm wondering, is the exclusive run of cars just going to stop, or is it going to shift to Target like some other countries do?
It'll be interesting to find out. I mean, only time will tell. And I mean, I'm starting to think that the Cars Days are probably going to disappear here in the United States.
Just altogether, it won't even be at Target.
I don't think it'll be at Target. Target already has their own exclusives.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, here, how about this? Target has a series of exclusive cars right now, the Neon Racers.
And they didn't have a special day for that.
You're right. You're right. So that's another thing I wanted to talk about was the neon cars. And this kind of confused me. And the only reason I want to talk about it is because I got all excited for this, thinking it was going to be this big thing. Target had, if you go to their website, a video that shows like the cars as neon cars were driving around. They released an exclusive book at Target, which tells the story of this neon car race. And as they go around the world to all the different locations, that location outfits the cars in some way. So this first one was in Tokyo. So then Shu Todoroki was in charge of it. So he gave all the cars that were racing neon lights. And that's how it's the neon cars. They had an end cap set up with this awesome backdrop. And then they had a set of cars. And then At Target. And then individual cars that you could buy. They even had some really weird stuff. Like a little fake...
Like flashlights and stuff like that.
A fake digital camera. They had a shirt and some pajamas. Well, interestingly enough, we've only ever seen the shirt, never the pajamas. But this came out about 3 weeks ago at this point, and we have been going to multiple Targets. We've been going multiple times whenever we're there. I mean, who doesn't go to Target a bunch?
Yeah.
But we're there, and we're always looking, and no location around us has gotten any more shipments in than the original shipment that they got.
Right.
So it's like, did Target really put in all this effort to create an end cap, an exclusive area, and do the book and all these other kind of things if it's not going to be more than one shipment? Is it just going to be like in and out, died?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's starting to seem that way since it's been almost a month that they've been in the stores, and there's only been we were there the day they were putting them out, for Pete's sake.
Right. Yeah, and there's still one that I can't find.
I know.
And it's Lewis Hamilton, and I've been looking for him every time. So I will find him. I'm not worried. I mean, he's on eBay and stuff. I just don't want to necessarily have to buy him off of there. I'd like to find him in the store, and I'd want these pajamas. I mean, I know they're not adult pajamas, but we said at the top of the show we have a son. He needs a neon set of pajamas. So, anyways, as you can tell, yes, back to the Cars 3 announcement, we're fans of the Cars line.
Yes.
I mean, and obviously a lot of that is driven by our hunt and my obsession with the Cars diecast. And I do have to say, I don't think we've ever mentioned this, Julie is frankly the reason that I got sucked into buying them.
This is true. This was many years ago when they first released them. I just bought you, a few of them. And
you said they were kind of cool. And then I liked them. I bought a few more. I didn't go crazy. I was like, I'll just get the ones I like. And then that first Christmas, when it came to gift time, you went bonkers.
Yeah, because I like the hunt.
Oh, yeah. She's obsessed with the hunt. If she can call a store or go to 50 stores and find them. And
it's like, I like the hunt of finding things and, getting it. It's just like how I am with when I come up with an idea that I'm like, Party Source Rex, like, I'm going to make it. And I do. Or the ears that I've made, the signature ears. And
right.
When I get an idea in my head, I'm going to make it happen. Like, I obsess about it.
Well, get it in your head to get this Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, and the rubber tires.
That's right. Oh, yeah, don't forget the rubber tires on all of the Baja racers, including Lightning McQueen.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get to the the big event of this podcast. The thing that we're here for is to talk about Party Central. Yesterday was the release day ahead of what movie?
Muppets Most Wanted.
Yes, and Muppets Most Wanted. We're fans of the Muppets.
How can you not be fans of the Muppets?
Exactly. I mean, it's great to have the resurgence of them. I mean, I was even into them during like Muppets in Space. That was like in the 90s when they were on their total downslide of just kind of for some reason going away. But
well, obviously being in our like mid 30s, we grew up with the Muppets.
Sure, absolutely.
So, I mean, for us it's just like, oh my gosh, the Muppets are back.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's how a lot of people are too. I mean, when we saw it in the theater yesterday, there was a wide range of ages.
Yeah.
I mean, there was kids, there was people our age, there was people in their 70s. I mean, it was all over the place. So, but anyways, we of course had to go out and buy some at Toys R Us. They have like the FAO Schwartz exclusive characters that are out for the Muppets. So I've been working on my voices. So I've got my Kermit down saying, "Hey guys, it's not easy being green." And then you've got Fozzie. "Oh, hey Kermit." So, and then Animal, of course, if you saw the movie, Bad Frog. So I'm working on my voices. I've almost got a Miss Piggy down.
You're getting closer.
Yeah, I'm getting closer. And then Gonzo, I still got to work on. I'm having trouble with Gonzo, but I just got to start listening to some more to get it down.
But ahead of Muppets Most Wanted was Party Central.
Party Central, yes.
And we were lucky enough to view the short ahead of time.
When we interviewed.
Right before we interviewed Kelsey. And I will say that this short is so much fun. I think it rivals the fun of Party Source Rex because it's like a party.
It's another party. Yep. And of course we like that. It's fun. I mean, not like we're partiers, but we love like the jokes that can come from a party.
Right,
and
definitely.
And there's so many people that can relate to it, and it's so stereotypical, yet you can twist and turn any way you want, and it can be funny.
Yeah. The difference with Party Central is you see like the gags and the college humor that's in that.
Right.
And I believe this one was rated PG, their first PG rating, correct?
Yeah.
And that's obviously for some of the, content and stuff, but it is so fun. Yeah. Like I found myself, and we talk about it when we spoke with Kelsey, that we wanted more. We were left like, hey, wait a second.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
This shouldn't stop.
Right. And in fact, what's funny is after last night, after the premiere night, when Jeff from This Day in Pixar, we mentioned him earlier, he tweeted out that you'd have to go back to Presto to find another Pixar short that was as fun in his view as this one. And it's kind of true. I mean, Presto was kind of that real fast moving slapstick kind of comedy kind of thing, and this is as close to that slapsticky vibe I think has probably been out there.
Yeah, see, I feel like it rivals more of Party Source Rex. I think that's my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any. Yeah, there's not. I mean, like, I can see Jeff's point. I can see your point. I mean, it's right in between there. So it's all in that. It's all in that. How much fun are you having with the short? This is
why I love these discussions, because I love hearing what other people think about it and how they compare it to other shorts or other tunes. Because seeing other people, then just talking about it, like, oh yeah, Presto, gosh, I haven't thought about that one in so long.
Right. One of the other things that we're going to have in the show notes for this is a link to the forum where you can rate the short to tell us, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, what you thought of it. And people have already been leaving some comments on their favorite moments and those kind of things, and it's great. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear anything about Party Central and you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and just, skip forward a little bit. But, one of the users or one of the readers on the forum said that their favorite part was after the credits, where the parents come into the room and say, can we sleep in your room?
There's monsters in our closet.
Yeah, that got a ton of laughs in the theater.
It really did. What's funny is not what's fun. Well, it is funny because people were laughing the whole entire time, like out loud.
Yeah.
And people were clapping during it.
Okay, at the end, this totally floored us. Like, we've seen a lot of,
we've seen
shorts.
Everything in
we've
the
seen
theater.
Every Pixar movie we've seen in the theater, and we've seen the shorts that accompany them, and we've gone to all the movies that have Pixar shorts, well, all of them, Muppets and Muppets Most Wanted. But yeah, we've never seen a crowd at the end of a short clap quite as much as, I mean, we've heard a couple people like laugh really loud, but this one, it was like legitimate, like people were like, all right.
Like applause. Like, I was like, is someone going to stand? That's how much is like clapping's going on?
Yeah, it was cool. And even when the very beginning came up with the Monsters University short,
the logo,
the logo with the stitched logo. Yeah, I mean, people were like, they almost didn't know. Like, some people didn't know that this was going to be the short that was ahead of it. So it was really cool that the crowd was really excited about it. And I'd say that the lines that got the most laughs were that one at the end. The
eyes, our favorite line.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which we'll talk about in the interview.
Right, yeah. And then the part with Janelle, a guy behind us was dying when they said, "Who's Janelle?" When the wife, pushes the husband and says, "Who's Janelle?" Oh man,
I thought he was going to fall out of his seat onto us.
He was loving that one. And then what was the other one that was getting a ton of laughs too? I mean, anything with when Sherry came flying through.
Yes.
When Sherry came flying through in slow motion with the yeah, that definitely got some good laughs too. So I mean, just in the 5 minutes that the short runs, people were laughing throughout it. So that's obviously what you can ask for. But that was our take on it. We love it.
Can't wait for more MU shorts.
Can't wait. Yes, it's obviously the poster mentioned that the MU shorts, you had predicted it or talked about it on an earlier podcast, and then again somebody on the forum mentioned, hey, is this? It says on the poster a Monsters University short. Does this mean there's going to be a series of them? So I mean, we'll kind of chat about that after the interview and come back on that. But let's jump into the interview now. Here's some great information from Kelsey about the short, about his journey to Pixar, and then we'll pick back up after that. First off, we've seen the short. We absolutely loved it, and it completely left us wanting to see more of the Oozma Kappa gang and the party. So obviously that is a success in itself that we wanted to see more.
That's fantastic.
Yep, and we know that the idea for the short was kind of an evolution of you wanting to know and wanting to see what that party would look like in the initial scene where Mike and Sully arrive at the Oozma Kappa house and Terry talk about it being party central. But the idea of a party is so broad. How did you kind of narrow it down and come down to the direction of it being this party?
I know, yeah, it's a good question because that was the initial concept, was like, oh, we should have them throw their party. We're like, okay, great, now what? Why are they throwing it? What's happening at it? And I remember early on, watching all kinds of, party movies and trying to just get inspiration and remember. I didn't honestly do a lot of partying when I was like in college, so there wasn't a lot that I could kind of pull from. I was more like the Oozma Kappa gang, where I didn't really have the party central myself.
Yeah, us too.
But, yeah, you do. Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to the Oozma Kappa experience. But yeah, was one thing that was really important to me was, there's a lot of, this has been done to death. There's been a lot of party, movies and, television stuff. And I remember thinking like, okay, how are we going to set ourselves apart? And I remember thinking and figuring out like, this party should only be able to exist in this world. You shouldn't be able to do this type of thing in our world, in the human world. It needs to be a party that's specific to this monster's universe. This party can only happen here, what they're doing. And so that kind of opened up the idea of playing with the door technology. One of my favorite scenes in the original film of Monsters, Inc. was the door vault sequence. Yeah. And I just loved them going in and out. It was so imaginative. And I remember thinking, we all thought, gosh, it'd be so fantastic to have that technology in the hands of frat boys.
Yeah.
And what would they do with it?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I came from, to try to make this short a little bit unique and really kind of just fun.
Yeah, and it definitely came across that way because, like I said, at the end of it, we were just sitting there going, oh, please, we want to see more right now already.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I've shown it a couple times, and I love, I don't get this a lot, that the short plays, and then people want to see it again. They're like, roll it again. I'm like, okay, all right. Let's do it twice, because I think it's so fun and it's so jam-packed, and it's over before you know it.
Yeah, okay, so that kind of leads us to what we were thinking about next. So when you were working, obviously, on Monsters U as a story supervisor, you're focusing your attention on one piece of the puzzle as far as the story element. How is it moving from that position to the director's chair, and were there elements that you had to, I was thinking about it broadly, that you had to kind of remove either due to time constraints or, things that just had to be pulled because, hey, we only have so long that a short can be?
Yeah, you know what? And the other side not only is like kind of length of the short, but it's actually producibility. It could be, this is a really complex short. I used to always joke when we were making it, we're like, yeah, the original Monsters, Inc. short was Mike's new car. And I kept saying, yeah, this isn't two characters sitting in a car. This is like full on the entire cast in a giant like party with lots of monsters. It was really complicated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Compared to like some of the other shorts that they've done. So we did have to make some compromises. We had a lot of really funny gags that I really loved that were just unproducible. They were really, really difficult. We had a whole conga line gag that I just loved, but there was too many characters and it was too much to animate, and so we ended up cutting down the short. I think at one point the short was about, I want to say 6.5 minutes, and we were kind of hitting this window of a production kind of time that we were able to take a lot of people. And with the amount of people that we had, we couldn't produce a 6.5 minute short that was that complex. So we ended up going back into the short and cutting it down to the 5 minutes. And it's funny, you have those kind of restrictions on you. And looking back on it, that short was just too bloated. And I'm glad that we were able to kind of cut it down and make it tighter and flow better. I think it just would have overstayed its welcome a little bit too much. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. You're right, because how it sits right now, like I said, we've wanted to see more. So that's a good thing. Is you walk away and you want to see more of it. But I kind of embroiled two questions in there. But the first part of it that I'll come back to is, how is it moving from the story to the director's chair?
It was fantastic. I loved, I worked in the story department, and then on NU I moved into the story supervising role, and then I started to open up and started to work with other departments that story is really connected to, like editorial and art and layout. And so just being able to do that opened my kind of experiences up at Pixar. But then doing the short, my God, it just completely busted wide open, and I was able to work with departments that normally story doesn't even really have any much contact with. If it's like sim or rendering or lighting, it was really cool. I met so many cool people that I normally wouldn't have been able to, one, meet, and two, work with. It was really an unforgettable experience, and kind of like honestly the highlight of my career. It was really fun. I loved doing it. It was a great experience.
That's fantastic. And one of the things that we are doing, and what we try to do, is like when we interviewed Michael Makarovich on Toy Story of Terror, we try to make sure that, because a lot of our listeners are obviously interested in the industry, or wanting to be in it. So from your experience and saying that it was such a blast, what are the things moving back into the story department? Because that, I'd say, the two things that people contact us about, that they say if they want to get into the world of animation, they say they either want to be an animator or they want to be in story. So coming back and taking a view from this, if you were stepping back into your story role solely, what could you bring back or tell somebody that wants to get into story from your experiences as a director to enhance it? It's a tough question, but is there something that you really learned so much that you'd say, gosh, I wish I knew that when I was just in story?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Like getting into Pixar was a very tough thing for me. It wasn't very easy. It took me 10 years after graduating college to get a job at Pixar. So I worked really hard at it. And there's kind of a few things that honestly found me success that I think that kind of worked out. And you have to have kind of a couple elements to make everything work. The first and foremost is being passionate about what you're doing. You have to love this so much that you can't imagine life without it.
Wow.
You'll do it no matter what. It's just kind of who you are. And that's what, you go around. I mean, you've talked to people, everyone that you've probably talked to at Pixar, they are so passionate about whatever it is that they're doing. They just love what they're doing, and they just have this kind of undying passion for it. I think a lot of people kind of want to do it, but they don't really want to do it. You know, like when it really comes down to it, because kind of the second thing you need is the hard work. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to do the hard work because it is hard. It's really difficult to do this. But if you're passionate about it, if you have the first thing, then you don't care about the second thing because it's not work for you. You know, you just, I love doing this. This isn't work. I don't feel like I go into work every day. I feel like I just get to go do what I love to do. It's a great feeling. I hope my kids, I hope little Leo that he finds something that he loves to do and does it for the rest of his life. And you don't feel like you're really working at all, you know? So you have to have those first two things. You have to be passionate and you have to be really hardworking. And then honestly, the third thing you need is a little bit of luck.
Sure.
And if you're just passionate, I know, yeah, it sounds silly, but I've been very lucky in my life and career. I've worked hard and I've been very passionate, but I've been prepared for when luck actually struck. I was prepared for it.
That's awesome.
And things just kind of lined up. So I always say you have to have those three things.
Yeah, and what's awesome is you're talking about this, and, again, everybody's always, they're kind of things that people have heard, as far as working hard and being prepared and, the passion and all those kind of things and going to work and really loving what you do. But you can feel the passion in what you're saying right now and how it's even coming across the phone. It's awesome.
That's great.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm very passionate about it.
Clearly.
I worked really hard on it. I just feel so fortunate. And the other thing too that has worked out for me is I've never really asked for anything. I never things have just lined up. I guess that's part of the luck. I came in to Pixar. I didn't expect to be a story supervisor. I didn't expect to be a director. I didn't try to maneuver myself to do any of this. I just came in and whatever they wanted me to do, I'm like, great, I'll just do this to the best of my ability. And honestly, I think I've been rewarded with that because they're like, hey, wow, you really poured yourself into that and you really were passionate about it and you loved what you're doing and you're great to work with. And do you want to do this other thing? And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. It just happened to me. I didn't, like this short is so amazing, the experience of it. It's something I didn't expect and didn't really ask for. They came to me and were like, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do it.
Absolutely. Put yourself in the position to allow others to see the passion that you have, and that's what you did.
Yeah, just do a good job with whatever you're given, no matter what the task, no matter how big or how small. That's what I love about the people at Pixar. It doesn't matter. Nobody cared on this short that was just, it's a short. I think if they just played this once in one venue, people would still pour the same amount of passion. It doesn't matter where this thing is going. People would just, what the product is, people just pour their hearts into whatever it is that we're kind of given. And that's another thing that I think people need to realize too, is that it doesn't matter how big or small the project is, pour everything that you've got into it.
Absolutely. So thinking about the short again, one of the lines in it that is our absolute favorite, well, it is our favorite, is that girl's totally eyeballing me, like all 5 eyeballs and everything. So we have a question. Is that your voice?
No, that is not my voice. That is as Austin Madison. He is a story
really?
artist.
Oh, that was our second guess.
Yeah, we thought like it's got to be one of them that was involved in the story. That seemed like it would be like a kind of like a Pixarian or a scratch voice that just stayed in.
You guys are good. You guys are very, very keen because that's exactly what happened. Austin was in the animation department and he wanted to switch over to story. And I remember him kind of practicing, and he pitched some of his work to some of the story supervisors, and I was working on Party Central at the time. And I saw his work, and I kind of knew Austin at the studio, but I saw like what he was kind of pitching, kind of his own personal project. And I'm like, my God, he's really funny. I would love to. So I hired him for the short. I'm like, oh, it'd be great to have him come do the short, and he's really funny. He does great scratch voices, so I pulled him in for just a random frat guy, and he adds, when you do that, it's like voila, and you kind of give a couple lines, and you're like, try this, try that, and then we just start playing, and then we just start recording, start riffing, And then he totally ad-libbed that line.
Really?
Was hilarious. Yeah, he totally ad-libbed it at the time. We're like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's so funny, Austin. And we put it in the short, and it always gets really big laughs. And I remember John saying at one point, I tried to replace it with with an actual like actor, and we couldn't get the magic that Austin had.
Oh, I was just gonna say, there's just something magical about the way he says it, because it's true frat boy.
It totally is. Yeah, it totally hits that mark perfectly. It was really hard to kind of recapture. And I remember Laurel, our producer, and I were like, let's keep him. Do you think we can keep him? And then, I kid you not, like a week later, John was giving me some notes on the layout, kind of cut of the short. And he said, by the way, there's one line in the short about 5 eyeballs. Yeah, I don't know who that is, but you got to keep him. I'm like, oh my gosh, John, we were already doing. John said that we could pretty much do it and pay to have Austin be in the short. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, you guys have very keen ears. That's exactly what happened.
We love his work too, like beyond like anything. I mean, we follow his personal blog, and he is so insanely witty.
Yeah,
I know, he's hilarious. I love working with him.
This
is really. Honestly, this is this is the first time we've worked together, and it was his first story gig. Was this short?
So, I know we're pretty much at our time here, but we just wanted to say thank you again.
Oh, I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us who you voiced in the short?
Oh, who do I voice? Oh, I'm one of those like effort type monsters. I don't actually have a line, but the one of the voices that I do is there's a guy who's riding like
the sled?
Like a tray. Yeah, like a sled down the stairs. And like, whoa, like falls down into the door. That is me.
Okay, so how great was that?
I know.
You could feel the passion, and that's the part that you said that, when we talked about it after we got off the phone with him, you were like, this is...
Yeah, that's definitely the, part that I'm taking away from it was when he was talking about, the 3 things that basically his path to Pixar, but, the passion, but that it also takes a little bit of luck.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, it's true. And that's what I liked about it. It's not like, sometimes you can be the greatest there is, but sometimes there has to be that
element of luck.
Yeah, right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah, so I thought that was very truthful.
Yeah, and not that we're saying that that's the only way you're ever going to get there, but
it's not
from his experience.
Yeah, not even just, him being at Pixar, but I think with anything you do, I mean, I think, when it's something big or something that you've really been working on, and I think there's always an element of luck when you look back on things that have happened in your life.
Absolutely. The other thing that I really loved from this was that, Austin Madison, with that comment where he made about that line was ad-libbed. Mm-hmm. Like, that's totally crazy to me that you could just, just totally off the wall just come up with that.
Off the cuff, just come up with some silly line like that.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, and I liked...
especially the all 5 eyes.
I know, right at me.
Yeah.
Like all 5 eyes right at me. It's great that John Lasseter was like left a note that said specifically like keep
that voice. Yeah,
that has to stay. Whatever happens, that has to stay. It's so cool.
I know, that's
just so cool. I love hearing that kind of stuff.
It is also funny because you and I usually can pick out those scratch voices, so I think that was really funny to hear. Like that's like one of the voices that we picked up on. Like, hey, this really works. This is a Pixarian.
Yeah, it's funny. You can kind of feel when something feels really organic.
Yeah.
And fits right into it. Like you can tell they're part of the process.
Yeah, you're right. It's different. Not that, like Tom Hanks and Tim Allen.
Or even some of like the Loop Group, the people that they pull in just to do the extra voices and those kind of things.
But you can't feel it with them, but some of the scratch voices really feel.
That one felt different for sure.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing that I wanted to talk about, kind of leading out of that interview is just a couple days ago, he did an interview with Collider.com, and they had asked him.
Kelsey did.
Who did I say?
No, we were just talking about Austin.
So. Oh, yeah. Okay, good enough. Yeah. So Kelsey did an interview with Collider, and one of the questions they asked him was about togas. And, in thinking about a college party, was there ever a part
Because when you think of college parties, you think of like Animal House.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, you think of toga parties and those kind of things. And he said, it really interestingly, talking about the budget and everything, that, yeah, there's an element where that we couldn't do it because that's a simulation.
Yes, which is, costs money. It's
Absolutely.
just like, backpacks and lighting. It all costs money to do all these things. And I think simulation, I believe, is one of the most expensive and hard to do. I mean, I can't say for sure. I'm not in the industry, but
right.
I think that's one of the,
Well, yeah, you're going to put a lot of time.
Budget busting.
You're going to put a lot of time and expense into it because, like, for Brave, they physically took cloth. They would, if it had to get cut by a sword, they would physically take cloth, cut it with a sword, and then analyze it, and then figure out how they had to digitize it. And yeah, it's crazy. It's cool. All the different steps along the way are just so amazing. But so he said that, even if like one or two monsters was wearing a toga anywhere in Monsters University, they could have shared that, and that would have already been built. They could have put it on a character, but not. If not, they just basically had to say, okay, do we want this party to be a big party with tons of monsters and make it look completely like everybody's into it, or do we want some of them to have togas? And like he said in our interview, he had this original thing with like a conga line and all this other kind of stuff, but they, there's so many different things that they just have to eventually whittle it down and determine from not only a time but a budget thing. So as in most of life, it comes down to time and money.
Yeah. So what I find interesting is I really wish we could get like a snapshot or just like a quick glimpse into how much all of these things cost. Like, how much is a scene with just 5 monsters rather than a scene that has 15 monsters
right
in it? I'd like to know that cost. And just like having a toga on a couple of them, even if just one was, how much is that to put like a toga on just one monster?
Right.
And it's also interesting to find out that, or to, know that anything that was built prior, they have. It's kind of like a digital warehouse.
Yeah.
That they have, that they can kind of tweak things. But as long as it's been built previously, that money's already been spent. That's so fascinating to me that they don't have to rebuild things. I mean, I'm sure maybe they kind of do because technology changes.
Sure, they can tweak it.
Like, how does that work? Can they reuse something from Toy Story 2?
Well, like, for instance, I believe, and, somebody from Pixar can correct me if I'm wrong. But like on Sully, they had to rebuild. Well, obviously they had to rebuild him a little bit because he was younger, but they had more of the control points that they were able to use on him now. So it became, they had to rebuild him.
He has more hair now.
Right. They had to rebuild him because of that. So I think a lot of times you could reuse things if they're more simplistic. But, like, I don't know. There's other things, like there's a tractor, and this, like, there's crazy things like from Cars we have the tractors that that tip over, but in the bottom of the water during the What Up Fishes scene of Partysaurus Rex, there's a tractor down there, and everybody thought that was like a hidden thing, was because it was a tractor, but it turned out it was not. It was just a separate tractor. So who knows? Did Pixar already have another tractor built, or did they say, well, we don't want it to be so similar, let's take the frame and tweak it? Who knows?
I don't know. But I would love to know that insight, though.
All this stuff.
I know.
All this
stuff. Such geeks.
And I'm sure people listening to this feel the same way. Also, in that interview with Collider, what I thought was interesting, too, is they talked about, again, budget-wise, that there was a scene that was lit. They had to light the Uzma Kappa house for the party. So you've got all the different strobes, and you've got the colored spotlights moving around and everything, and they had to build that, so that cost money, of course. But then they held the original party where they stole all the people from by using the doors from the Roar house. And not only would that make sense in the story-wise, because that was the most popular fraternity, but they actually already had that same exact lighting built from Monsters University. So they used that same lighting to save cost. And I thought that was also really interesting, too. So it's cool to think when you're writing the short
that you have to think of
about the budget and how you could reuse some elements. Now, you probably don't fully do that when you're just writing it initially. That's probably through discussions and meetings. But it's still probably a
thought process of it.
It's interesting. It's interesting,
especially for a short, to know you're in like kind of a confined budget. maybe with features you can stretch it a little, but with shorts,
I don't know about that. I mean, that's why you have producers and all the other stuff. They're keeping you on task the whole time.
That's true.
And they have to determine at a lot of different points where they're going to make cuts, what's going to go, what's going to stay. I mean, that's along the way. Yeah. I mean, everything has a budget. It's a company, and it's they're built to make a profit. So
one question, kind of off topic, that we didn't have time to ask was about the music within the short.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed that music, and we think it might be an original.
Yeah, there's a gentleman that did the music for the short, and I'm trying to remember. The Tom McDougall was one of the music supervisor on the short, and we were wondering, did he do the actual song at the end? Because there's a song at the end of the short that's, hey, all right, this party's out of sight. It's a really cool song, and we've tried to look it up. We can't find anything, so we just have to assume it's like a Pixar original kind of song.
Yeah, I think it's an original, but is it like a known band that did it, or is it kind of just like
I don't know. We didn't see anything.
We
didn't see anything necessarily in the credits that gave credit to a band.
Yeah.
So
I would like to know that too.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So if somebody knows that, let us know. But yeah, the other thing that we talked about Kelsey with as well, because we kept blabbing with him even after that, where we ended the interview where we talked about that he was the character that goes on the tray and slides down, is about the Easter eggs. So we're not going to tell anybody, just like we asked him not to necessarily directly tell us. But what was cool is, as we started talking with him,
we totally knew. We saw it.
We knew, and we didn't realize that it was necessarily an Easter egg. Because when you think of Easter eggs, you think of
Pizza Planet truck, A113, a reference to a future Pixar film or a past Pixar film.
Right. None of those are in there.
Yeah. It's not. It's more of like a, is that really what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
More of like a funny kind of gag in the background.
It's more gag stuff, yeah. And he talked about like how much fun they had doing all the set dressings and all those kind of things, putting some items around the set and
putting some like college humor twists in the background.
With some college humor twists, yes. And oh man, the one thing that we loved is when the credits are rolling, all the pictures.
Yes.
The pictures and like you talked about the squishy one. Mm-hmm. Like with the lasers.
Yeah.
Like it's like his school photo with the awesome lasers in the background.
I love that because obviously
everybody had that silly school
in the
shot.
80s, yes.
Yeah.
I think half of my yearbook photos have those laser lights in the background.
Yeah, and then of course
like all it was, and then or it was the white background with like the paint splatches.
Oh God, I know, it's so bad, so bad. So anyways, that's the thing, just as a tip for anybody that's looking for the Easter eggs.
It's not a reference.
Don't start looking for A113. Don't find the Pixar ball. It's not gonna be there. So it's kind of cool that it's
just a silly thing that will make you be like, hey.
And there were some crew member jokes too. So if you find them, and we'll eventually talk about some of them.
Yeah, just not yet. Just
not yet. But and frankly, we'll probably wait until we have a digital release of some sort, or it's released on a Blu-ray. Hopefully that'll be coming soon. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be alongside the Muppets. Obviously when something comes up, we'll let people know. But yeah, we'll wait till we get some screenshots in there too and kind of point some things out. But yeah, if other people think they find something, let us know. We'd love to hear what you think. So anyways, well, that about wraps up this episode of the Pixar Post Podcast. We had a ton of fun catching up on all of the news. Thank you for sticking with us and waiting for us to come back around after the birth of our son there. And
we're definitely back on track. So
yep, we've been doing a lot of posts, and there's been a ton of news, so we're super excited. There's a lot going on.
We're glad to be back podcasting as well. So.
Absolutely. So definitely stay tuned to PixarPost.com all week for the latest news. And signing off as usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And thanks for tuning in.